Hello, people. Welcome to the Marc Jackson Show. We're so fortunate today to have the legendary, one of the greatest voices in the history of sports. You know him worldwide, especially if you're an Eagle fan. You know him deeply, Mr. Merrill Reese. Mr. Merrill, thank you for joining me today, my friend.
Mark, it's great to be with you.
I appreciate you being here. You know, Merrill and I, we play a lot of celebrity golf events together. And I seen him at Mike Quick's first tee event. First tee, and I was like, Merrill, I hate to ask you this, would you please come on my show? And he said, yes. I was like, really?
Sure.
He said, that was, to get you on here is unbelievable, because your life in Philadelphia, your life with the Eagles, you're just, what you represent to the city is just amazing, and I'm so happy to have you on.
Well, I watch you every night when I watch you with Jimmy and with Amy.
Yes.
On the Sixers pre- and post-game stuff. And as a fellow Temple alumnus, I enjoyed when you played at Temple and played in the NBA. So I have been a big Marc Jackson fan forever. I just had never met you.
Oh, my God, bro. I appreciate the kind words, man. You make me feel good. Let's start. So let me ask you this. 47? Am I right? 47 years?
This will be 47.
This will be your 47th year
Yes.
of doing the Eagles games.
But who's counting?
I mean, but what's the point of counting? It all adds up after a while. What? Okay, so we go back. Tell me the difference. This is 2023. When you first started 47 years ago, tell me the biggest difference between when you first started and now.
Are you talking about football or are you talking about the broadcast?
All of the above. Let's start with the broadcast
Let's
first.
start with the broadcast. When I first began broadcasting the Eagles, all commercials were done during timeouts. Halftime, timeout on the field, you go back. All the commercials were done back at the station.
Okay.
Now you have something called drop-ins. So there's a good hands catch of the game.
Yeah.
You have things, and I'm sure you're used to that in your basketball broadcasts. There's you get into the red zone. The red zone is sponsored by. It's all of the commercialization of it.
Monetizing everything.
But this is a very important thing because in those days, you know what the players' salaries were, and you know what the broadcast rights fees were. Well, they're a zillion times higher now. It's a much more financial enterprise. It's one of the biggest businesses. So throughout the game, I am constantly handed cards, and you're reading this and you're reading that, and the play of the game, the run of the game, the catch of the game, the good hands play of the game, the defensive stop of the game. And listen, that's a fact of life, and it's not something that bothers me because the players are paid more, and so are the broadcasters.
Oh, that's incredible. But people know you a lot because of football in Philadelphia and football and the Eagles and things like that. But what they don't know is you had aspiration of being a basketball player in high school. I think your 10th grade year, you went to the world famous Overbrook High School. For y'all people who don't know about Philadelphia, Overbrook High School in Philadelphia at one point produced the most NBA players out of any school in America, ladies and gentlemen. And Mr. Merrill went to that school.
And was cut after one day.
So tell us that story. You was in 10th grade?
No, 10th, well, you started in 10th grade.
Okay. So they have freshmen?
It was 10th, 11th, and 12th.
Ah, that's right.
What Overbrook was. So I arrived at Overbrook and played well in the schoolyard, and they could shoot a little bit. But I was 5'8", not particularly fast, but I could play. So I went out. I ran cross country to get in great shape.
Okay.
And first day of practice, I came down court, and I took a pass and launched a 15-foot jump shot. Nothing but net. Came down the next time, another jump shot. Nothing but net. Looked over at the sideline, and the coach, his name was Paul Ward, his back was to me. He wasn't looking.
He wasn't paying attention at all.
No attention at all.
And you just hit a great shot, and he wouldn't even see it.
I was 2 for 2, and I might have even had a good assist. And I came back the next day, and my name was right there with those who were cut. And then a light went on in my head, and I said, wait a minute. I'm trying to make this team that is probably recruited from all over the city, and a team that had 3 players who went on to make it in the NBA.
3 on one team?
3 on one team. One high school team.
What were they named?
Well, Wally Jones, who became a great star at Villanova and then went on to play for the 76ers.
Yes.
The others were Walt Hazard, who went on to play at UCLA and coached at UCLA and played for the Lakers. And the other was Wayne Hightower. who played for the Warriors.
Oh,
So
wow.
those were three, and the fourth was a guy named Ralph Hayward, and Ralph Hayward was an All-American at the University of Seattle. So there's no chance, no chance.
And then the light bulb went off. Like, Coach and I were looking, and then they hit you like, oh, well, okay, I see now. Now, after that, after an unfortunate event that could have deterred Merle's career, did you retire from basketball at that time?
No, I still played in the schoolyard, and I played intramural basketball when I went to Temple. I enjoyed it. But I realized that I wasn't going to make the Overbrook High School varsity.
Ah! Now, so, okay, that was your basketball career. Now, when did you first pick up a golf club?
About 30 years ago.
Oh, so you're a newbie. Well, 30 years.
It's not new, but I mean, it wasn't something that when I came to WIP originally, they would send me out to go into these charity tournaments to go play in these scrambles.
Yes.
And I was awful. I was awful. Look, you know what it's like. You go out to these charity tournaments, you want to help, and then you tee off and you hit a tree 20 yards off.
Or you might hit a person, depending on where he's standing.
You could do that. You could do that too.
I did that.
But my sport where I was more accomplished was tennis. I played a lot of tennis tournaments growing up through college, and in the summer I would spend 6 hours a day on the tennis courts, working and practicing and playing at tournament matches. So I played tennis for a lot of years. But by the time you've been playing the game for 20, 25 years, it takes a toll on your knees. And I didn't need anything like knee replacement, but I had torn lateral meniscus a couple of times. And by the time I was a little bit older, I came out of a surgery for torn meniscus, and the doctor said, "Listen, I would stick to doubles if I were you, because your knees are taking a battering. The cartilage is wearing down." So at that point, I said to my wife, "You know what? For my birthday, get me a set of golf clubs, and I'll take 3 lessons so I don't embarrass myself." So I took 3 lessons and 4 lessons and started practicing. Everything I do in a big way where I really
You're competitive.
dedicate myself.
Yep.
And I became a decent enough golfer to enjoy it, to love every day on the course.
Now, so back to what age were you when you started playing tennis?
Tennis, probably 12.
Oh, so that was your first sport.
No, my first sport was every other sport. As
Ah,
a kid, we were
versatile.
rolling around in the dirt playing football and baseball and basketball, and tennis came a little bit later.
And you're from West Philadelphia originally?
I was born
Born in
at
West
Temple
Philadelphia.
University Hospital.
Yeah.
My
Oh,
father,
me too.
yeah,
Yes.
my father had a dental practice
Okay.
at 441 South 56th Street.
Oh, man.
And then when I was a little older, we moved to Overbrook Park, and from there on in,
Oh, my God. Okay, so you start out, you play all the sports, which
all the sports.
young people, I advise you, when you're growing up, play all the sports. Don't specialize in one. You don't know which one you're going to fall in love with, and you might be better at one or the other. You know, I saw like Merrill right here, played everything. You know, I grew up, I played basketball and I ran cross country because our coaches for the, get in shape for basketball, run cross country. Okay, if you say it out, you know. And then for me, Merrill, I wanted to run a track, but I wasn't fast. So before I went to Roman Catholic High School, I went to a school called William Penn High School on North Broad Street. It's tore down now. It's now a Temple track. And when I went there, the women's coach was named Mr. Hinkie. He was a Hall of Fame track and field coach. He put so many women in college, so many women in Olympic teams, and they didn't have a track at William Penn. He trained them on running on a concrete around the school, and he said, "Hey, if you do shot put for the men's team and be the manager for the girls team, I'll help you get in shape," because I was very obese as a young man. I said, "Sure." And since that moment for me, track and field is my favorite sport.
Sure, we did
So,
that.
yeah.
We did that at Overbrook. There was a yard in the
Really?
back where we ran around in circles. But then the meets were at 33rd and Dolphin Street in the park,
Really?
in Fairmount
In the park?
Park. Yeah,
Oh yeah, is that Lemon Hill? I think or something.
I don't know what it's called, but it took a lot out of me.
Like
I was very tired at the end.
Oh my God! So you played all the sports, played a lot of tennis. You was trying to be Nadal, sliding around, hitting the ball. You was
Well,
like,
I believe it or not, that's probably the thing that takes the most out of your knees, and it's not the hard courts; it's the red clay courts where you slide into a shot,
Yeah,
and your knees act as shock absorbers.
really.
So I played on every surface.
Oh man! And then you transitioned to basketball. You said no, that's not for me. So And then
I didn't say no, it's not for me. They said no, it's not for me.
it wasn't your choice. Great point. But so, and then at that point, so when you went to Temple, what did you study at Temple?
Communications.
Communication. So you, perfect. You went in your major. Were you playing intramurals at Temple?
I was. I did.
What?
I did play intramural
Oh
at
my
Temple.
God. Then were you continue to play tennis at Temple too?
Yes,
Oh, you played it. You just kept it going.
I kept playing.
Oh, I love it.
Actually, I was at Temple. By the time I was a sophomore, I was named the sports director of WRTI. So
Really?
we had a line marked down at the Palestra.
Okay.
So we didn't just do Temple games. We did all the Big Five games. So on Wednesday night, there was a doubleheader.
I remember.
I'd go down and I'd do 2 games on Wednesday night. Friday night, Penn played an Ivy League game or whomever, and I went down and I did a game on Friday night. We did 2 games at Palestra doubleheader on Saturday night. And one day, I went down. The public league had their playoffs, so on a Saturday afternoon I did 3 public league basketball games. In one of them, Bartram had Earl the Pearl Monroe.
Wow.
Yeah, and then at night I did a college doubleheader, so I did 5 games in one day,
All in one day.
all one day.
That's dedication.
Loved
You're
it.
versatile.
Loved
So-
it. I would have done anything to do that.
So let's talk about, you mentioned the Philadelphia Big Five. You started doing that. So for people who don't know, the Philadelphia Big Five or the Philadelphia Big Schools of University of Pennsylvania, LaSalle University, St. Joe's University, Villanova University, and Temple University. So that's been made of the 5 schools called Philadelphia Big Five.
Now it's the
I ju-
now it's the City
At the
Six.
City Six, they added Drexel University, well deserved. And when I was growing up, Malik Rose, who played at Drexel, good
Sure.
friend of mine who works in the NBA, played at Drexel. Like, man, this is really the City Six. They don't want to let us in there because we embarrass all you schools. So it's good that they finally let them in there.
Yeah.
So now, when you grew up when you started doing the TV basketball,
Radio.
radio basketball, how did your love and your versatility in all the sports that you did growing up, how did that help you with the broadcasting of basketball?
Well, there are certain fundamentals as being a broadcaster. With in football, I call it STDD, score time down distance. So basketball, doing it on radio, I believed in giving the score after every score, and
good.
identifying where they were on the court and passing and just describing action as it occurs. Now, the thing that made basketball the easiest is because, at least in those days down at the Palestra, we were right on the floor, right in that first row, press row, and we could see faces. Now today, you get further and further away.
Yes.
In football, there are times when the Super Bowl in Minneapolis, 2005 Super Bowl 52, Mike Quick and I were seated in a corner of the end zone. In fact, I tell people when Tom Brady threw that final pass to end Super Bowl 52, I was scared to death. And they said, "Well, what were you afraid of?" I said, "I wasn't afraid about the Eagles losing the game because I didn't think Brady had the arm strength to complete that Hail Mary. He was not Aaron Rodgers. I was afraid I was going to be 110 yards away from where that ball came down. And I didn't want to be known as the broadcaster who blew the end of the Super Bowl. I mean, yeah, but as it worked out, it was just fine. And I called it and I looked up and everything slowed down. It was like one of these NFL film
Yeah.
in slow motion. And I saw it batted around and then hit the ground. And I just yelled, "It's incomplete. The game is over." And I looked up at the scoreboard, just zeros. The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions. And then I said, "Eagles fans everywhere, this is for you. Let the celebration begin." That's
Oh,
just what came out.
and it's great. You had a lot of one-liners that's history and is shown.
And
as-
you
as
don't
it is
plan
to
them.
people.
You don't plan
They
them.
just come to your head. So let's transition to Eagles. So at what point did you switch over to Eagles from doing radio for basketball and other things? At what point did you transition to that?
Well, it's a long story, and actually, it was a book called
Okay.
"It's Good," written a long time ago.
Really?
Yeah, but the GOOOOOD, as I call a field goal. But just to briefly, I'll give it to you. I'll
it
give
to
you
us.
the short version.
Okay.
My mom loved show business and things like that. So as a kid, I did television commercials as between the ages of maybe 8 and 13. I'd get connected with an ad agency. and I'd be on. I did a bunch of television commercials, but then when it came time to go to school and into college, what was I going to be? I used to go to Franklin Field to watch college football. Penn played at Franklin Field. The University of Pennsylvania had one of the best college football programs in the country.
Really?
Penn was big time. They used to open many years with Penn State. Penn State was a big game. And in those days, Mark, and I'm talking about in the early 50s, we're talking about Franklin Field would bulge with 65,000 fans. And then the Eagles on Sunday would be playing at the baseball stadium, which originally was called Shibe Park, and then it became known as Connie Mack Stadium prior to
Lehigh
moving to the vet, 21st and Lehigh. And the Eagles would get 8,000 people for an NFL game. That's all the NFL was. It wasn't until late in the 50s, and then Pete Rozelle became the commissioner, that the NFL began to boom, and pro football took over and ruled the world.
Really?
But college football was much bigger in this city, and Penn football was really where it was.
Really? I mean, you're talking 60,000 at
At
Franklin
Franklin
Field
Field
and
to see
8,000 for
Penn.
the Eagles.
Yeah.
That's a significant difference.
Yes.
Just to say
I'll
the
say.
least. So now, and so okay,
So you're saying
How did you start?
where it switched over? So I used to, in those days, I'd go for how about this? When I was at Temple, my mom gave me as a gift, a birthday gift. She gave me season tickets to the Eagles. You would say, boy, that's a pretty big gift for a mom to give her son. Not really. A 7 game package, 7 games, were a total of $35.
Oh wow,
$5 a game.
that's not enough to get a hamburger, hot dog now. How about it? You're talking
$35 for 7 games. And my friends had them when we go out to Franklin Field. And at the time, I would watch the Eagles on the field. And when they went back into the huddle, I would look up in the broadcast booth and I would have my binoculars and I would focus on the broadcaster whose name was Bill Campbell. Bill Campbell was a big hero of mine. And I would look at Bill Campbell through those binoculars and I would say, that's where I want to be someday.
Really?
That's what I want to do more than anything else in the world. That was my dream. I mean, obviously, if I could have made it come true, I would have preferred to be the quarterback. But since that wasn't going to happen,
This is not a bad
this
option.
is not a bad thing. And I think I lasted a lot longer than Donovan McNabb.
Oh, that's funny. It's funny. So the way I got started in broadcast and doing TV, Merle, is when I was a rookie for the Golden State Warriors. We played in Atlanta and TNT inside the NBA with Ernie, and it was Kenny Smith, and it was somebody else. And I mean, you should come on the show. I was like, all right. So I went on their show as a rookie because I was at a very good rookie season for the Golden State Warriors. And my godfather's name was Frank Marciano. Shout out to Frank Marciano, who owns Marciano's Bakery in Mannion. Check it out. But he told me, he called me, he said, how was it? I said, it was outstanding. It was fun. He says, you're going to be on TV one day. And he's my godfather. He's pretty much my biological father. And he was like, you're going to be on TV one day. And what do you mean? He's like, I guarantee you, I promise you, you're going to be on TV one day.
Sure.
And I was like, oh, okay. He said, and he's giving me that time. He looks at, don't worry, watch. So it was interesting. And so fast forward, I got the opportunity to do TV for the Sixers, and before that I was doing CBS Sports game, college basketball, calling the games for thing, and I started getting calls from other networks to do things. And my godfather said, remember I told you that in your rookie year. I said, how did you see it? He said, some people are just made for TV. Some people are better made for radio. Maybe I thought I was
Well,
that.
but see, let me tell you something, Mark. I graduated from Temple,
Okay.
and I thought, world, here I am. But of course, there was a military obligation, so I was fortunate that I qualified for testing and examinations, and I was sent away, and I became a naval officer.
Really?
And I served as a naval public affairs officer. And when I came out of the Navy, by that time I had been an ensign, a lieutenant JG, and then I was a lieutenant senior grade, which was like an Army captain. So I actually thought about staying in because I really loved Navy public affairs. I had stops at Chinfo, which was the Office of Information at the Pentagon. I did a lot of very interesting things. And when I came out, but I thought about it, and I said, but my whole life, I've thought about being a sportscaster, a play-by-play sportscaster. I've got to give this a shot. And I could always go back because I stayed in the reserves. So I went back, and for a year, it was knocking on doors and being told no. And finally, I auditioned at a little station in Coatesville.
Okay.
And after the audition, the station owner said, "You can't start here. You've got to start someplace small." I said, "Wait a minute. This is Coatesville. And he's telling me I've got to go someplace small." So I go to Pottstown, and they needed somebody to do a high school football game on a Saturday afternoon. And by this time, my confidence was shot.
Yeah.
And the station manager, Herb Scott, his name was, said, "I'd give you a chance, but you look like you'd have a nervous breakdown." So I went home. Friday afternoon, the phone rang. He called. He said, "I can find absolutely nobody else to do this game. Pottsgrove and Springford." He said, "So I will take a chance on you." And I went back and I did the first quarter, and I was shaky. And but as I got to the second quarter, I was feeling better about things, and I completed the game. And on Monday, he called me and offered me the job full time.
Really?
So I went from Pottstown, where I was for a year, to Levittown, WBCB, of which I am proud to say that I am a managing partner, along with Pat Dion, who is our president. Pat is the chairman of the board of SEPTA.
Okay.
And we have WBCB in Levittown. We have a lot of young broadcasters that we try to help along, and we do all the sports there, but we have a great time. And then from there, I was looking. I mean, at that time, I made their ceiling, the highest I ever made, $125 a week for 6 days a week.
Really?
That was the ceiling. So I knew I had to move on. And somebody told me that KYW was auditioning announcers for news jobs. And I went down there, and they gave me some wire copy, and I typed it up, and I recorded it. And I said, "Boy, this is going well." I didn't fluff a single word, mispronounce anything. The news director, I will never forget his name. His name was Reggie Late. And Reggie Late, he was the news director at that time of KYW. He called me into his office, and he said, "I'm going to do you a favor." And I'm thinking, I'm going to be on 50,000 watt KYW. This is great. He said, "I'm going to tell you something. You will never work in a major market radio station because yours is not the sound that we are looking for." And he said, "If you want to make a living, find another field or another aspect of the business. You'll never be on the air." And I was absolutely destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
But then everything I had worked for. So I went home, and I went up to my bedroom, and I just jumped into bed and pulled the covers over my head. I said, my career is over
Now, how old
already.
were you at this time? Let me go
I was into my 20s.
Okay.
So I was probably 24 at the time, being told that all my dreams will never reach fruition. So my mom comes up, she said, "Time for dinner." I said, "I don't want any dinner." She said, "Why?" So I told her the story. She said, "It's my fault." I said, "What do you mean it's your fault?" She said, "It's my fault because I raised a weakling. If you're going to let something that one person told you, you can stay up here for the rest of your life." I was angry. I went charging down. I had my dinner. I went back to BCB. And within 6 months, I was in Philadelphia at WWDB.
Really?
Within 6 months. And within 6 months, he was fired, Reggie Lake. So here I am at WWDB, and I was there doing news. And the big show was Friday with Frank, with Sid Mark, and we had a great station. And I did the news every day. I did the news every day from 1 to 8 at night. And in the morning, I gave tennis lessons, and $7 a half hour. But I gave tennis lessons for $7 a half hour, and I would shower and run into the station and do news from 1 to 8. So one day I came to the program director and I said to him, "How about if I come in every morning and do the sports at 6:05, 7:05, 8:05, and 9:05?" He said, "This is not a sports station. This is a music station and news. I said, let me just explain something to you. I will come in and do the sports every morning at 6:05, 7:05, 8:05, and 9:05 for free. No extra money. He said, maybe sports will work in the morning.
His mindset changed real quick,
So,
didn't he?
so I came back and I did that for free. And after a few months, I had some days in the spring and summer, I would even run home at 9 o'clock. I lived in an apartment complex with tennis courts,
Okay.
and I would give a couple tennis lessons and then run back and do news all afternoon. So I got a call from somebody I know you know, and I think of him all the time. And he was one of the most wonderful people I've ever known. He was the sports information director at Temple University, Al Schreier.
Oh my God, Mr. Schreier, yes.
Yeah, Mr.
Mr.
Schreier.
Briefcase,
Yeah, with his
yes.
briefcase. And he
Yes.
called me and he said, Merrill, WIP is auditioning people. Charlie Swift was the Eagles announcer and the sports director of WIP. He would take a vacation from mid June to mid July, a month's vacation. They're looking for somebody to fill in and do the morning sports on WIP. He said, I want you to call Dean Tyler, who was the program director. And I called, and they told me to come in for an audition. This is in February. And I auditioned, but I don't hear anything.
Okay.
That's I pretty much put that aside, just another job I didn't get. And then I got called back in March. They said, we'd like you to do another tape. And I did, and I didn't hear anything about it. And I forgot about it. I didn't get it. That's all there is to it. One day early in June, they asked me to come in again, WIP. And I showed
And
up
how many months later was this?
3,
Okay.
April, May, June, 3. So I showed up again, and this time I was in the lobby, and Charlie Swift, who I only slightly knew, walked into the lobby and said, "Kid, come with me." And we walked down to the newsroom. He said, "Next Monday when I'm gone, here's where you'll be doing the sports." And I said, "What?" He said, "Here's where you'll be doing the sports from. Didn't they tell you? You got the job."
Wow.
So now I'm going to get for a month at WIP. So I came back to WWDB and I said, listen, I'm going to have to leave because I'm going to be doing sports at WIP. And they said, well, you don't have to. You can give up your sports here, do the sports in the morning at WIP, and come in and do the news in the afternoon. So I said, wow. I was going to take a chance and give up my full-time job for 1 month at WIP. When we were in school, WIP, and it's still a big station, a successful station, WIP was the dream of every Temple Communications major to one day be on the air at WIP. So now I come into WIP my first day. Mark, I'm scared to death because this is it.
Big news.
And down the hall from the newsroom is where the disc jockey sat. Now, the disc jockey at WIP was the single greatest rated personality in all of Philadelphia. Now, our older listeners will remember him. His name was Ken Garland. He ruled the city. WIP had the highest profit margin of any station in the country, and Ken Garland was the #1 rated star. He was a big star at WIP. I grew up listening to Ken Garland, just knowing that Ken Garland was down the hall in another studio. I mean, I could do a sportscast, and he could pick up a phone and say, "Get rid of that kid.
Yes.
Hey, get him out of here." So I take a deep breath, and I 5:06, 6:05 in the morning, and I do my very first sportscast, and I just let it go. And at 10 minutes past 6, I read the card, and it said, it's 10 minutes past 6 on WIP, time for the start of the Ken Garland Show. And I clicked my microphone, and I get emotional when I think about this, and I didn't hear anything for 3 seconds, but it seemed like 3 hours.
Yes.
Dead silence.
Yes.
And I'm saying to myself, oh my goodness, what did I do wrong? And all of a sudden I hear a very faint little click of his microphone, and he comes on, and his first words out of Ken Garland's mouth were, "Wow, if I were Charlie Swift, I would hurry home from vacation." I have never forgotten that. And before I left the building that day, they signed me to a contract to do the Eagles pre and post game shows and the Ed Kyatt coaches show.
Really?
Yes.
Off the first one?
Now, after the first day.
Oh my God. But let's even rewind. How was the reaction? What was the emotion going through you when how you found out you got the job? He said, "Come with me, kid." He goes and show, this is what you're doing. Like, you were
I couldn't
confused,
believe it.
Me? What do you mean? Like, oh, this, how about finding out that way that that's how you got that
Yeah.
job? How were you feeling at that moment?
I was feeling that it was a dream come true, but at the same time I was hoping that I could make it count because this is the big time. So
Yes.
I was hoping, but it was a great moment.
Oh my God, I bet it was. And then you go on the show, you killed it. You killed it. And then they said, by the way, kid, we're signing you. That's just like, that's how you got started.
But you know what? For that first month, I got up at 4 in the morning. I went into WIP. I did the sports till 10, till
Yes.
9. I prepared what I had to prepare for the next day. I went to WIP and I did news from 1 until 8. And then I come home and collapse for a few hours and get up again at 4 o'clock in the morning and work basically from 6 until 8 at night. 6 in the morning till 8 at night.
You know the best part about that to me, Merle, is yes, you're one of the biggest voices in sports history anywhere and around the world. But what people don't understand is what you did to become who you are in the industry. You worked your tail off.
Oh, I did.
You had gaps. You said, I can fill that gap. I'm not going to sit here and just, you find other things to do. And you just worked, and then it came your way because one of my favorite philosophers used to say, those who are prepared are always invited, which means if you're prepared, when your opportunity comes, you're going to kill it. And you got your opportunity and you ran.
Well, there's a lot of those sayings, you know.
Yes.
The baseball announcer the baseball general manager who signed Jackie Robinson,
Okay.
Branch Rickey,
Okay.
played in the movie 42 by Harrison Ford.
Yes.
And I remember his saying. He had a saying that said, "Luck is the residue of hard work." And sure, I was lucky. I was lucky because all the different things happened along the way. But believe me, there was a lot of heartbreak and a lot of doubts along the way.
Oh, I bet it was. But that does nothing but make you tougher, make you many, but it also prepared you, make you better for your craft. Because if you're serious about it, going back to the gentleman telling you no, and you had to get the little pep talk from your mother, which sounds like how my mother would have handled it.
My mother was tough.
That's how tough. They made you tough.
Yeah.
And that's why you went through what you went through, and you persevered out of that. And I think shout out to your mom, man. That was a big time because if she said something else, it might have kind of make you stay in that.
I had great parents, Mark. I had a great mother, and I had a great father who unfortunately passed away when I was 16. But I had great parents, and that was a big part of it.
Oh,
And even now, I have a wonderful wife named Cindy who has been the most supportive person when our children were little, and I'd go to training camp. She would say to me, "Listen, you go do whatever you have to do to be your best. I will take care of everything else." And she taught for 19 years. She was an educator, and now she has her doctorate in education, higher education. But she quizzes me every week. I mean, we'll walk in the day of the week of a Giants game. She'll have flashcards, and she'll go 26, and I'll say Saquon Barkley, or the different numbers. She's got flashcards. She's quizzing me all week.
oh, that's what I call partnership right
Yeah.
there.
Oh, we are.
Oh, I love that. How long y'all been married?
This summer,
Oh, you gotta get this right now.
this
No
June
pressure.
17th will be 44 years. But as we all teasingly say, if you don't count football seasons, it's only 22
But that partnership right
because
there,
it's
yeah.
very demanding.
Man, I know it is, Merle. And so you became the Eagles pre and post. That's how it started. And when did you transition to being the voice?
Well, that is a long, sad story.
Oh,
Seriously. In about 4 years later, Al Pollard, who was the color analyst, a former Eagles player, left, and they put me in to do the color, which is rare for a broadcaster. It's usually an athlete, and I did the color for 1 year. And I hate to recapitulate this because this is so painful. But with 2 games to go in the 1977 season, the week before the Eagles had played in Dallas, and as I got off the plane, Charlie Swift and I got along very, very well. We were we were not social friends. We were professional coworkers, and we respected each other, and we got along really, really well. And as I got off the plane, he said, "I'll see you next Sunday, kid." And I said, "Yeah, Charlie, I'll see you then." And I went home, and this is another story because I'm working part time at WIP doing these games,
yeah.
but WDB was then a talk show. So I was part of like a morning zoo at WWDB where we had music and talk, and I was doing some stuff over there. And every morning, the disc jockey at WDB would call me at 4:30 and wake me, and I would drive into the station and do the sports. So one morning, it was December 7th, Pearl Harbor Day, uh, 1977. The phone rang, and I looked up at the clock, and it was 2:30. I said, "Wow, why is he calling me at 2:30?" And as I answered the phone, the guy on the other end said, "Merrill, this is Tim Early," who I recognized the name. He was a friend of Charlie Swift. He said, "Charlie's dead." Just like that. He had taken his own life. And I could not, I was in a state of shock. And I went into WWDB and I did a eulogy. And when the phone rang at when the switchboard opened, there were no cell phones. Yeah. Switchboard opened at 9 o'clock in the morning. Dean Tyler called me from WIP and he said, "You're doing the game, you're doing the play by play this Sunday. And go get a color analyst." And I said, "Okay." And I got to know WWDB was a co-owned station. And the other part of WWDB, the AM side, was WHAT, which was a black rhythm and blues station.
Yes.
And they had a lot of the real hip disc jockeys in the city. And a lot of the athletes used to come in and hang out. I got to know Richie Allen, the great
Okay.
Philly slugger who used to come out. We became good friends because he used to hang out in the station. And another great idol of mine, I don't know if you remember the name, but the name is Herb Adderley, who was an all-public baseball, football, basketball player at the old Northeast High School, went on to Michigan State, and was a great Green Bay Packer, and is in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And Herb and I were good friends. And I called Herb. I said, "Would you do the color on Sunday?" And Herb came and did the last 2 games of the 77 season with me. And I will never forget that as long as I live. I mean, I'm standing there to do the play-by-play, and they had a moment of silence for Charlie at the stadium. And all 47 Eagles turned and faced the broadcast booth. And my knees are going like bang, 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 bang. I'm thinking, just let something come out of my mouth. And it did. And I've been doing it ever since.
Wow, man. That's an incredible, sad, but incredible
Sad.
story.
Sad.
It is very much so. And so that's when you first started. So we go back to the first high school game you called. Now you're doing the Eagles. Did you think back to that younger day? Like, I started off doing a high school game, like somebody took a chance on me then, and now I'm doing the Eagles.
I don't think so.
Really?
I don't think so. I think there was so much going on that week
I bet.
that I'm memorizing numbers and I'm getting ready to call the game. And I was fortunate to sit next to Charlie in the booth for that year.
Okay.
And I learned a lot. But I had done play-by-play of all the Temple football games.
Okay.
Football wasn't new to me. And it was a great opportunity. But I think you live during a week like that, you live in the moments
Yes.
rather than start to reminisce.
I mean, it's a lot of pressure. So you have to be focused on the now.
And actually, after the season ended, I didn't have the job for the next year. I just had finished the season, and hundreds of audition tapes are coming in from all over the country. because this is an NFL job.
Heck yeah.
Everybody wants it.
Yes.
And I don't know if I'm going to get it. And I used to have a dream that they called me at WIP, a recurring dream, and say to me, Merrill, we're sorry, we've decided to go in another direction. And I'd wake up and I'd be elated that it didn't really happen.
That was a
It was a
dream.
dream. And there were other times I'd have this dream that they called me and they said, you're it. And I'd wake up and I go, oh, it was only a dream. I'm not it. So one Friday afternoon, I got a phone call. I had been taking a nap because we had an appearance that night. I was taking a nap, and the program director from WIP called me. And he called me and he said, Merrill, he said, we have decided to hire you. You are the new play-by-play voice of the Eagles and the sports director of WIP. Going to do morning sports, going to do Eagles. Going to come in on Monday, and they told me what I'd be making, and I was gassed. I mean, not that I was making so much, but I had been making so little.
Yes.
And they called me to come in, and I said, absolutely. And that next day, I went to the program director at WWDB and gave him 2 weeks' notice. And he was kind and it's wonderful. We're
You
proud
told
of
him why,
you.
though, of course.
Huh?
You told him why.
I told, yeah. And I told him why. And Monday, I'm driving into WIP, and I'm on the expressway. And suddenly I'm thinking, you know, maybe I dreamt it. Maybe when I woke up, maybe I dreamt the whole thing and I just gave up my full-time job.
Oh.
But fortunately, when I got there,
real.
it was real.
Oh, my God, Merle. So you started off there. When your first year, what were your feedback, your first when you finally got the job, you started the following year full-time when you knew it was yours. You got that position. What was were you critical in yourself? Did you just immerse yourself in it, say, I'm fine? What was the feedback you was giving yourself?
Mark, I am critical of myself today. I would tell you that if we do 20 games, or of course now playoffs, but let's just say a 17 regular season and 3 preseason games, I drive home really pleased after maybe 3 of them.
Really?
The others I'm saying, I should have said this. Why didn't I say that? And didn't I realize that that 6 was a 6, but with the loop coming over, I thought it was an 8? I mean, you ever look at the font on the Eagles uniform? The way they come all the way up?
Yes.
I'm thinking, oh, I blew at, But by the time I come home, the rule is I've got to forget about it and go on to the next week. But every summer, I will listen to 3 or 4 games in total and say to myself, I use this word too often, or I could have described this differently. So I want to be better in my 47th year than I was in my 46th.
Ooh.
Because I talk about my friend Dick Vermeil,
Okay.
who I still believe is the greatest coach I've ever been around. And Dick Vermeil used to tell me, used to preach and tell the team different things. And one of the things Dick said was, you never stay the same. You get better or you get worse. I want to be better every year.
And that's still to this day, sometimes you come with something different for the following season. Like, oh, okay, Merle.
I don't want to be different for the sake of being different. I want to be better than I was. I don't want to be repetitious.
Yeah.
I don't want to be predictable. Yes, there are certain phrases like a field goal that wins the game where it's good,
Yeah.
that I'm going to keep in the, but not every time. It's got to be a really big field goal. But I'm not looking for cliches, or I'm not looking for the same way to describe something every time. I don't have phrases. When Paul Domowitz of the Daily News did a story on me before Super Bowl 52.
Okay.
And he said, if the Eagles win the Super Bowl, do you want to have something written down that will last for eternity, that will you'll just turn to it and be able to read it without having to worry about stumbling or whatever? I said, no. If it happens, I just want to let my natural emotion carry me through.
Oh, that's special. So I'm also more a motivational speaker, so I go speak to a lot of colleges, a lot of universities, ask to speak to media or speak to that. And the inquiries I get from young people, like, what can I do? What is the thing? What's the key? How do I get in there? What would you give advice to young people other than your story is it's epic. Like it's motivation, but it's not just motivation. It's like you have to keep wanting to improve. And even going in 47 years, you still improving and you still have a will to improve. What are some advice that you give up and coming people, no matter what age, that want to get into broadcasting and sports and things like that?
You know, Mark, the thing I tell them more than anything else, kids sit behind the television and try to describe. I never did that. I never did that. I never fooled around doing games off the television screen. I was out in the street playing baseball, playing basketball, getting my head bashed in, playing football. That was the stuff I did. You know what I tell them? Worry about that stuff later. You want to become a broadcaster in any sense of the profession, become a reader. Read. Become a voracious reader because our vocabulary is a direct reflection of how much we read. That's where you develop your vocabulary. I love to read, and not just sports. I am constantly looking for different books, historical novels, mysteries, biographies. I read all the time. And that's where you get the ability to describe things. Read.
I love that. That's a great piece of advice. Another question for you. For you, Merle, what in your 47 years of what you're doing, what's been the best moment to you in this business?
Super Bowl 52, the way it ended.
Brady lines them up. He's back again. He steps up. He's hit. He stumbles. He is throwing it deep for the end zone, and it is batted around and incomplete. And the game is over. The game is over. The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions. Eagles fans everywhere, this is for you. Let the celebration begin.
You know, Angelo Cataldi used to say to me, I want them to win for you because of all you've gone through. For all these years, you deserve to call the winning Super Bowl. And I said to him, it's not for me. It's really not for me because I've called miracles of the Meadowlands, great comebacks. I've gotten everything you could possibly want. It's for the fans because these people, some of them get second mortgages so they can buy tickets.
Yeah.
Then at Christmas time comes, they spend their last dime getting the kids the Eagles jerseys and all that stuff. I wanted, and that's why when I said Eagles fans everywhere, this is for you, that came from right here, right in the heart.
Oh my God.
That's
Spoken
the
like a
greatest
true
moment you could ever
Philadelphian.
have.
Exactly. Spoken like a true Philadelphian because in Philadelphia, we don't just love our sports. We're ingrained in our sports.
Yes.
We're born in our sports, and it's in us. It's within us to be them fans that people speak sometimes negatively of. We just call it passion and love.
You know what I do every night? I go home every night and I have a seat right in the corner of our family room and I watch the Phillies. Or I watch you guys doing the Sixers. Or I'll turn on the Flyers. I'm one of us.
Yes.
I root like crazy for our other teams.
Yes. So next question. This may be kind of I gotta ask you. I don't know if you can answer this. By all your years, have you had a favorite player? For any reason, not on the field.
You know,
the favorite.
can I categorize?
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Okay. Now we're talking about within my tenure as the broadcaster, going back to 1970,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
the greatest Eagles player, and there have been some great ones.
Yes.
To me, the greatest Eagles player I've been around was Reggie White.
Ooh.
No, I think Doc was close. Brian Dawkins was close. But Reggie is arguably the best defensive end ever. I think Reggie was the best of all. Most exciting.
Okay.
Not the best Eagles player, not the best quarterback, but nobody was more exciting than Randall Cunningham.
Oh, the scrambler. Yes.
Oh, the things he
Yes.
did. I mean, a 93-yard
Extended
punt
plays,
and
yes.
everything else. But there are guys I look at. I mean, Harold Carmichael was amazing, and he's a great friend to this day. Mike Quick and I, not every broadcast team, I can tell you, are the broadcast partners really friends. They may get along, they may have a good relationship. Some broadcast teams hate each other.
Really?
It's not. There are certain. There's friction that goes on. I'm not saying. I'm not pointing fingers at anybody. I'm just saying. But not. Mike and I are close friends. We go to each other's family celebrations. We play golf together. Mike Quick is one of my best friends.
He's an incredible
Okay,
guy.
so we do have friendship. So Mike was a great wide receiver.
Really?
The greatest tracker of a football I've ever seen. Deshaun Jackson.
Really?
Oh my goodness. When he tracked the football, nobody could do it with more knowing when to put on the burst, when to slow up a step. Greatest tracker of a football I've ever seen.
Wow.
You know, they were great guys. I worked with Stan Walters for 14 years. Great offensive lineman. Jerry Sizemore, great player. Ron Jaworski, and the terrific quarterback. Donovan McNabb, I love Donovan.
Mhm.
Donovan McNabb has all the Eagles' passing records.
Yes.
But these are guys, you know, in this locker room, there's a million guys and they're not just all the biggest stars. There's nobody nicer than Boston Scott. Boston
Really?
Scott is he is such a great guy. He got his degree in kinesiology.
Okay.
He interned at a children's hospital. He's very affable, very warm. I mean, who's a better guy than Brandon Graham? I always say if I meet Brandon Graham in the hall, my day just got better. And Jason Kelsey, and you know, I don't want to leave. You'd start leaving out names because that locker room, this team that Nick Sirianni has, is just filled. Dick Vermeil again used to say, "You win with character people. You win with character people." And Nick Sirianni has a locker room filled with character people.
Hey, listen, that's so important because, you know, I think good people, good character, I think people want to play with them more because sometimes we believe as an athlete, when I've had teammates, Merle, that were great athletes, but were very standoffish and didn't want to
Yeah.
be. And it's like, yeah, we were teammates, but like, are we really teammates? And I think when you're right, when good people are become teammates, they gel quick.
I don't like to brag, but I'm going to brag.
Bragging.
Because when everybody was wondering and saying, do they really have the quarterback of the future? Is he really a franchise quarterback? I have been on Jalen Hurts from day one,
Really?
and he is going to be the greatest quarterback this team has ever had.
Oh, you got to say that again, Merle. You said
He is going to turn out, God willing, to be the greatest quarterback this team has ever had. I've never met a more dedicated guy. His hobby is football. His career is football. He works at it. He's there on his day off. He has everything. He's got the athleticism. They used to say he has modest arm strength. Garbage. He's got a great arm. There's not a pass that he can't throw. Jalen Hurts is special, and he's a leader. And every member in that locker room gravitates to Jalen Hurts.
when your best player or one of your best players is also a leader, that says a lot.
Yes.
Because you know, Merle,
He is a leader.
A lot of players get that tag as a leader of the team because they're the best player, but they don't deserve it. And when a guy like Jalen Hurts could come in here and take the scrutiny, is he our quarterback? Is he good enough to lead this team? And he does what he does.
Yeah.
Once again, proof like, okay, he's proven. And like you did, Merle, you kept working to get better. You, even at 40, you still watch games. You still watch
Sure.
tape to critique yourself. Great scholars want to be great. And the only way to become great is something, in my belief, is just to learn.
Mark, do you know how many football games I must watch? I mean, if the Eagles aren't playing on Monday night, I'm watching the Monday night game. I'm watching the Thursday night game. I get home from the game on Sunday. I'm watching the Sunday night game. I watch every college game that I can watch.
Really?
Love college football. I mean, I get into my hotel room on the road. I want to see as many college games as I can see, so I have an idea who's who when the draft comes.
Oh,
but I
wow.
love college football. Love it.
When you love it, nothing but good greatness happen from it. So now let me ask you this. Let's talk about the game before we transition. Let me talk about the game, not just Eagles, but just in football in general. As you see the game progress to where it is now, how do you like the game of football now? I know you love it. We all love the game, but how do you think it's changed other than salaries and all that, but just the way it's played?
It's more of a passing game
Okay.
than a running game. I mean,
Is
it
that okay?
originally was built on 3 yards in a cloud of dust, but it's a pass-first game, even though the Eagles last year emphasized the run to a great degree. But today it's faster. It's more exciting. There are more big plays. The game has never been better.
Oh, I love that. You mean it's trending in the right direction?
The athletes are better than ever.
Really?
They are. They are
Oh,
better
man.
better than ever.
Oh, I love it. That means better product. I know the NFL got it like that means a better product. If more people watch
I
it.
think the product is great. I do. I think it's tremendous.
Okay, so now I'm gonna play devil's advocate. If you can say Merrill Reese, Mr. Merrill Reese says, I wish we implement this one thing in the game. What would it be? Anything per aspect of the game.
Well, they've been implementing a lot of things
Mhm.
lately that are based on one thing, making the game safer.
Yes.
They've practically eliminated the kickoff, where now the new thing is you can call a fair catch on a kickoff, even if you're not in the end zone. The college game has that. So I think that's a good thing.
Okay.
I I believe in the replay. I think the
Okay.
replay is a good thing. I heard Bill Belichick say that you should have your limited number of challenges,
Mhm.
but you should be able to challenge anything. I think that's okay. I think you should be able to challenge a call for a late hit on a quarterback.
Ooh,
You know,
that
watching
would,
the
hey,
NBA,
yeah.
you know how they challenge and figure out if it's a flagrant foul
Yes.
and take a few seconds.
Yes.
Did the quarterback really get hit? Was it really a 15-yard personal foul? Or in making a defensive play, did an arm just kind of brush across his collar? You know, I think you should be able to challenge anything, but have the same number of challenges.
Ah, so your one rule change is be able to challenge anything, but at the same number of challenges. I like that. I like that because a lot of players are advocating, a lot of coaches are advocating in NBA. If you get your challenge right, you should be able to keep your challenge for another one.
Yeah. Now, if I could eliminate anything, but this is really old school,
Okay,
and
okay.
because this is really antique. I would say that every new stadium being built has to have an open roof. I don't want
Really?
I don't want to do the game in I it's an outdoor game. How about the game against Detroit, the snow game they had a number of years ago? What was better? How about the ice is coming down, the sky is cloudy? I don't want to be in that sterile atmosphere. Now, fortunately, a lot of them have the roofs open,
Retractable, yes.
but I think that ought to be the call of the league. I don't think when you're in Arizona on a beautiful day, they ought to be able to close that roof so that this crowd noise stays in. I think the
Ah.
roof could be closed only for extreme conditions.
Oh, okay.
So how's that?
Ah, you gave me some eliminations. You gave me new rules. Ah, okay. I like that, Merle. I gotta agree with you on that. Okay, so let me transition to food because this is Philadelphia. We're all food people. Merle, do you ever have a cheesesteak? Oh, okay. So do you mind giving me your best 3 places you've had cheesesteaks in Philadelphia?
I haven't had a real cheesesteak in a while. Most of the cheesesteaks I've had in recent years have been chicken steaks,
Oh, chicken cheesesteaks, yeah.
and sometimes without cheese.
Really? Hey, that's
just a
healthier.
just a good chicken steak.
Ah.
But I know there's a lot of great places, and I don't get to many of them.
Okay.
But I do have my favorite foods.
Oh, I love it.
I have a
love
little restaurant we go out on Friday nights out there where I live called Phil's Tavern, which I
Really?
love.
Really? Phil's Tavern. I gotta check that out.
Bluebell area.
Really? Oh, man. Okay. Well, Merle, listen, I appreciate you so much. The city of Philadelphia appreciates you so much. Every lover of sports and football appreciates and admires you so much.
Thank you, Mark.
I
It's
know
been
how
my
important
pleasure.
time is. I know it's our biggest wealth in the world, and I appreciate you giving it to us.
My pleasure. Really, it's been great being on with you.
Thank you very much, Merle. So, once again, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. And once again, thank you. Thank you so much for this special episode of Marc Jackson Show. And once again, thank you for the Fitness Club for allowing us to host it here. And we appreciate you. Show love to everybody with an open mind and an open heart, people. Marc Jackson out. Love you.